In my opinion, the Audi Q2 is one of the finest cars Audi's ever produced. In this video today, I'm going to tell you why. It's no secret that I'm someone with pretty strong opinions on certain cars, but when it comes to this one, I don't really have any super strong opinions. Coming down to the styling, I mean, it's fine. There's nothing particularly offensive about it. It's not an ugly car, but it's also not the most exciting thing on the planet. I've seen much prettier cars, but I've also seen much uglier cars. I've never been a huge fan of its styling, but I can see why a lot of people like it. But again, it's just fine. When you jump into the Q2, this is where, for me, it gets a little bit disappointing. The design itself, it's nice enough, but it's starting to look a little bit dated. This is a 2024 example, and this is an example of a 2024 Audi A1 interior. And then if you compare that to this, the design is night and day. Positive, there are buttons and knobs for the air conditioning, and we have a swivel wheel, which makes life much easier to use. There's a nice satisfying click when you use it. It just makes scrolling the menus easier. You don't have to worry about trying to fiddle around while your hand's bouncing around to do the touchscreen. You also have Audi's virtual cockpit, which is one of the better ones on the market, and you can flip through some different menus and different views, and it just makes the driving experience feel that much more premium. In terms of weird things about the interior, I'm not the tallest guy in the world, okay? I'll be the first person to admit that, but this seat is already as far back as it can go, and this is a comfortable position for me with the pedals. You're not allowed to be a tall person to drive this car, because if you're anything over maybe 6'2", you're going to be driving it with your knees by the steering wheel, and that's just not comfy. In terms of storage, the cup holders aren't ginormous. There's a little cubby under here that can hold stuff. Then the door bins are fairly big and they extend pretty far back, so you can fit a decent amount in the door bins at least. The glove box is a fairly decent size, so the storage in here is decent enough. In terms of just the overall quality, I think for a 750,000 rand car, Audi could have done just a little bit better. The build quality is good enough. I mean, you find some cheap and scratchies down lower, but in the places that you do feel and do touch, it's good enough. Like I say, fine. If you jump into the back seats, I mean, headroom's decent enough. There's not yards of legroom, but you'll be comfortable if you're average height like me. The seats themselves are comfortable. There's no reclining feature or anything like that. It is a little bit dim in the back seats. There are reading lights that you can switch on and off, but yeah, for the most part, the experience in the back seats is also fine. Here at the heart of the Q2, we have a 1.4 litre 4-cylinder turbocharged petrol engine. It's good for 213 kilometers an hour, according to Audi, and will get the car from 0 to 100 in about 8.8 seconds. Puts out about 110 kilowatts or 150 horsepower, and it drives the front wheels. One thing you do notice immediately as you open up the bonnet, though, is Audi badges everywhere, but as we all know, Audi is owned by VW, and one of the first badges that hits you in the face is a VW badge. Never letting you forget who's really in charge. Coming to the boot, yeah, it's a boot. There's a couple of tie-down points. There's a net over here to store some stuff. Audi is nice enough to give you a little basket to carry all your groceries and stuff in. Other than that, there's not too much special about this boot. In terms of size, the capacity is around 380 liters, which is pretty much identical to what you get on an Audi A3, which is, in theory, a much smaller car than this one. So perhaps I've been a little bit harsh in my critiques of the Audi Q2. It's a good car, but I don't think it's good enough for a 2024 premium small SUV. I can see why it became so popular, and I can see why it had such a broad appeal, and when it was launched, I'm sure it was a great car. But in today's standards, I don't know if it lives up to its price tag with things that you can get on cars that are much cheaper. However, in terms of its redeeming qualities, they all come out when you start driving it. So in terms of its comfort, it's incredibly comfortable. The suspension is soft, the seats are comfortable, the steering is light, it's surprisingly nimble for a car of this size. And also, the car does tend to move immediately as soon as you put in a steering input, and that's something you'd expect from most performance cars, not really a micro SUV like this one. The performance, I mean, it's fine. But if you need to overtake someone on the highway, you stamp your foot down, it doesn't take 3 months before it kicks off. It's got enough go to get you to a decent speed fast enough. Another redeeming quality that this car possesses is its brakes. It has very, very good brakes. They don't feel like they're grabby, where as soon as you touch the pedal, the car feels like it's going to slam to a stop. Very easy to just slow the car down, but it's also enough where if you feel like you need to stop on a dime, you feel like you can stop on a dime. The creature comforts and its equipment, it doesn't have the adaptive cruise control, it doesn't have lane departure warnings or lane keep assist, but it's got enough stuff. There's parking sensors. It doesn't have a rear view camera, which I would expect on a car like this, but it's a pleasant driving experience. It doesn't feel like a cheap car driving it around. All of this kind of puts into question, who would this car be for? My immediate thought is, if you're someone who's looking at your first car and your parents love you very, very much, possibly a used one of these would be a great option because it's safe, it's got plenty of airbags in it, the brakes are really good. The view out is also really, really good. You can see every corner of this car, which if you don't really know how to drive all that well, is a good thing to have. And because it's not the performance of a Lamborghini, your child is not going to wrap themselves around a tree quickly. Or perhaps it's for the young professional who's just gotten a promotion and is entering the corporate world and wants to show that they've got a little bit more money now. It's comfortable, it comes with enough creature comforts, it gives you that premium driving feel, and it gives you the premium looks from the outside at least. People will look at it and go, that person there has just gotten a new job. And it could also just be a great option as someone who wants to treat themselves and upgrade from their Opel Corsa or their Toyota Vitz. So what's my conclusion on the Audi Q2? Styling is fine. It drives fine. Build quality is fine. Power is fine. Oh, like I said at the beginning, this is the finest car Audi's ever made.